Iran nuclear deal review. That's such a terrible intro. Oh my god. Before this video starts, if you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. I do make comedy videos normally, but my comedy is embedded in this video, so if you enjoy this video, you'll like my channel. Sub right now, haha. Today's video is going to be a lot more serious, and it's actually going to be about politics. Woo, everyone loves politics. Effectively, I used to hate politics. I used to think it was very boring until I actually started attending sixth form, in which, in form, I didn't have any friends, and like it was awkward just to sit there pretty much, not on my own, just with like a couple of other guys who I didn't know that well, so I just read the news instead. And when I read the news, I actually learned quite a bit about politics, and it became very interesting. I actually used to hate Donald Trump, but now, looking at everything he's done, as he's been the president, obviously, I've actually started to agree with him a lot more because I have a better knowledge of politics. And I think a lot of people need to learn about politics because it is genuinely really interesting and it is relevant to society. So today's video, we're going to be talking about the Iran nuclear deal and Trump's withdrawal from it. So Trump has continuously gone on through the whole of his presidency and also him running up to become president. He has constantly gone on about how the Iran nuclear deal was one of the worst deals to ever exist. And honestly, that sounded a bit crazy to me when I first heard him say that. But when you actually look at the deal and when you look at how dangerous it could really be, it's bad. Okay, it's really bad indeed. So firstly, for you to understand why the Iran nuclear deal is bad and why I think America should withdraw from it. Once you've watched this video, you're probably not going to agree with it, with the deal anymore, I'm not going to lie, because I didn't know much about it until this morning. I did a lot of reading about it, and I watched some videos on it, and oh my god, is this deal stupid. It really is. So firstly, you kind of need to know about Iran. Believe it or not, Iran is not a very nice country. It's crazy to believe. Before this video starts though, leave me a like if you enjoyed this video. If this video does really well, I'll be sure to make another political video because I know that you guys love politics. Oh, yes. This video is either going to get like no views, but some people are going to really enjoy it, or it's going to get a lot of views and a lot of hate. I don't really mind which way it goes, but regardless of that, let's get reading about the human rights issues in Iran. Oh my god. You know, it's good when... Oh my god, there's this many contents. Oh my god. So Iran has a lot of issues, and let me just read some of the issues. So firstly, they don't believe in equality between men and women. They don't believe in gay rights. They don't agree with the LGBT community. They don't agree with the freedom of expression. Religious equality, they don't agree with that. I think it's compulsory to be... religious. There are many faiths that have actually been banned. They also have capital punishment. They have a very suppressive media. There's lots of propaganda, for example. The punishments are insane. You have to wear a hijab if you're a woman, I believe. Women cannot attend all universities. That sounds pretty good. But yeah, there's a lot of issues with Iran. Like, there's a lot. Oh my god, it keeps going on. Jesus Christ. The only thing you need to take from this is Iran is not a very nice country. And genuinely speaking, the fact that they kill people who are gay in public. I have a feeling that Iran should not be a particularly large country in the world. And that's exactly what the Iran deal supports. It supports Iran becoming a normal large country, like for example Germany or France. That's what it supports because it's allowing them to trade. So effectively, Iran, they started developing nuclear missiles. Now I don't know why they actually started developing them because, I mean, they've not really got that many people attacking them as of such. Like, they don't really need to defend themselves with nuclear weapons. So it's quite obvious that they're developing nuclear weapons just to claim more power. And by the way, they hate Americans. So this deal makes absolutely no sense. So pretty much the whole world were very annoyed by Iran trying to develop nuclear weapons. And the reason why is because it was a threat to everyone. Because Iran, they don't like non-religious, non-Muslim countries. They don't support them. Hence why religious freedom is not something that's respected in Iran. So these cool guys and woman. Jesus Christ. I wish that came out a bit better. But these lot, they decided to try to make a deal in which they would slow down, well, stop Iran from developing nuclear weapons, because believe it or not, I think it's best for world peace not to let an insane country have nuclear weapons. Okay, the fact that Russia's nuclear weapons is already bad enough, and Iran having them would be even goddamn worse. Here's the thing though with Iran, they're pretty far with their nuclear program. Like they've not just started, they've been doing it for many years. A lot of people don't actually understand the deal, so I'll read about that in a second. So yeah, the nuclear program started in the 1950s, so it's been happening for a very, very long time. Now, they really wanted to slow down Iran's nuclear capability, so what they actually initially did is they put on a lot of trade barriers, sanctions. They wanted to kind of gear them away from nuclear weapons, because nuclear weapons are just not good. Like, in general, we don't need them in the world. They're not something that's needed. It's just unfair and it causes too much harm. The UN, they put on a lot of sanctions, which limited the oil revenue that Iran actually made. And because, obviously, Iran is in the Middle East, they make a lot of money through oil. So they actually lost out on a lot of money. Iran were very angry about this. So what they did is they continued to develop the nuclear arsenal. Because instead of going, oh, well, I suppose if the UN have control over us, we might as well, you know, listen to them and try to grow our country. But instead of that, they're not bothered about the economy. They're not bothered about the people. What they're more bothered about is having nuclear weapons so they can pretty much do whatever they want, because it is a dictatorship over there. I think a lot of people forget that. And also they blamed mostly the US for these UN sanctions, which just escalated how much they actually hate America, which was not good, saying, you know, they're trying to develop nuclear weapons. This was obviously dangerous because you got to realize the UN put the sanctions on Iran, which all that was doing is damaging their economy, which was damaging their people, not the leaders, because the leaders were still doing great even when the sanctions were implemented. And on top of that, they were still, you know, doing the nuclear program. And also, on top of that, Iran were actually helping, well, North Korea, allegedly. They probably were. I don't doubt that at all. Which is, again, dangerous because North Korea, they were very hostile to America. North Korea are a lot better to America now. But I think they're doing that because they want to get rid of the sanctions that the UN have imposed on them. And it's the same with Iran. They wanted to get rid of the sanctions mostly because they just want more money. That's it. Like, they don't care about the economy. They just want the hierarchy to get more money. You know, the rich to become even richer so they could become more powerful. So what actually happened, and you got to realize for the UN, they're not getting anything out of this. You know, they're just limiting the trade of a country, which doesn't really make a difference to the UN. But they're having a country become more and more aggressive. They're still developing nuclear weapons. And on top of that, there's now even more disturbance when it comes to world peace. So they decided to seek out a deal, which is called the Iran nuclear deal, which sounds good, kind of. It's not that good. It really isn't. So you'd think that this Iran nuclear deal would literally stop Iran from developing nuclear weapons. It doesn't stop them, it just slows it down. And here's the worst thing about it. Iran allegedly have still been developing nuclear weapons and they've not been listening to the actual agreement, which is very bad because they've got a really good agreement. They would actually have the sanctions lifted, which means they can trade freely. That helped their economy out a lot. And as I mentioned before, they're not really that bothered about the economy. But if you have a country that has a good economy through trade, it's very easy to get more funding for nuclear weapons again, and it's easier to implement their regime, the Iran regime being a completely toxic and completely unacceptable regime. Like, the people aren't happy. And there's a lot of people in Iran. Like, you got to remember that. It's like 100 million or something. So they got a lot of money back because obviously the sanctions were lifted, and the UN thought they were doing well now because, like, Iran have allegedly slowed down very much with the nuclear program, which helps, obviously, world peace, which is the main point of the UN. However, there are some issues with this Iran nuclear deal, and these are some really bad issues. Firstly, the fact that they have free trade is very dangerous already, because you got to realize that Iran's not a sane country. Like, it should not be treated as a normal country, because it isn't. The regime is extremely oppressive, And most of the population are just brainwashed. A lot of them are very strong Muslim believers. They follow very old-fashioned ideology. And on top of that, they have a very negative impression of the world, specifically America. So I can see why America are not happy with that, because there's a country that's becoming more and more powerful in which the population hates America more and more. Like, why would America support that? So the actual terms of the agreement, the uranium stockpile had to be reduced by 98% for 15 years. But you got to realize, 15 years. Like, they only have to do that for 15 years, and then the agreement needs to be remade. Like, it expires. But here's the thing, right? What won't expire is the lack of sanctions, because it is quite hard to impose sanctions on a country, because it causes a lot of controversy. It causes a lot of conversation, and it can really damage world peace, because they're obviously going to retaliate. I can't even pronounce that word, god dang it. They also have to use, like, low enriched uranium, which it can still be used for the same thing. They still have it as well. Like, they still have uranium. It's just that they don't have much. But, I mean, why should they have any? It doesn't make sense. They had to get rid of lots of centrifuges. I mean, I'm not a nuclear scientist, so I don't actually know what that means. So yeah, this was basically implemented to reduce the efficiency of them developing a nuclear weapon. Research and development must only take place at one location, and it will be limited until 2024. So pretty much, they could still develop their nuclear weapons. It was just more slow and also more controlled by the UN. And they could only be used for medicine, and the centrifuges. Oh yeah, centrifuge. So yeah, it's to do with uranium enrichment. Okay, so it's developing nuclear weapons still. So it can only be used, though, for medicine, agriculture, industry, and science. However, obviously, they're not going to listen to that guideline, because it's not like someone's going to constantly monitor them. Iran said also that it will redesign the reactor, because I believe they only have one. They must have more than one reactor. But they said that they would use this one reactor, they'd redesign it so they don't produce any weapon-grade plutonium, which doesn't really make sense because, yeah, and that all spent fuel would be sent out of the country as long as a modified reactor existed. You see, this confuses me because you can only really use plutonium for, you know, nuclear energy, but then Iran have a lot of oil. Why would they bother with nuclear energy? That doesn't really make sense, to be fair. This is where it gets confusing because people don't know much about Iran. It's a very secretive country. But this is the thing, they could be using that as a disguise. They could be saying, oh yeah, this is what we're using the plutonium for, when actually they're using it for something completely different and hostile, weapons. So they are not permitted to build any heavy water reactors or accumulate any excess heavy water until 2031, which doesn't make sense because I thought that they were trying to make electrical energy from nuclear energy. Surely they will need heavy water reactors to do that. So that doesn't really make sense to why they're actually agreeing to use plutonium for only energy purposes, but then they're saying that they won't need water, like heavy water reactors, which they do need. It's very weird. It's very confusing. What I think that's to do with is how they won't build any more energy power plants. But then why would they need so much plutonium? Again, I'm not a nuclear scientist. I can't judge this with a fine-toothed comb. I apologize. But here's the thing, right? The issues with the deal, and these are big issues, okay? Number one, it doesn't actually have a benefit to anyone except Iran. Besides world peace, which obviously is not happening because of the ballistic missiles, which they actually proclaim. This is what Donald Trump said, so take it with a grain of salt. But Iran proclaimed that they do that for show, almost for propaganda videos, for videos that celebrate the country almost, which sounds stupid already. Like, I don't believe it. I believe that they're developing ballistic missiles just to make sure that they have the power. But that's not world peace. Like, the UN are trying to get world peace out of Iran, and what Iran are doing is they're developing ballistic missiles, which is not great. And still, Iran are not happy at America because they think that they are imposing these sanctions on their nuclear weapon program, which they think's wrong because they don't support America. They don't like America. So, of course, there's still, you know, it's still bad, you know, because America and Iran, they're not working well together. So what are America actually getting out of it? Now, also, Iran is becoming more and more powerful. They're having more money, that they're getting more money through trade, and that's allowing their nuclear program to be progressed in, say, the future when the deal runs out, when it expires. Yeah, there is a UN ban on the import of ballistic missile technology, but it's very hard to ban things like that. Because have you seen the countries that board Iran? You know, I don't think the UN are doing particularly well with goddamn Afghanistan or Pakistan or Turkmenistan. I can't even pronounce that country. Or Iraq. Not doing great. Or Saudi Arabia are doing alright, I suppose. Like, they're lifting the sanctions. Iran's becoming more powerful of a country. And they're hating America more and more. And they're going to be able to progress the nuclear program in the future. It's very dangerous. It's not a good deal. And that's why I support Donald Trump on this. So in summary, America are angry because Iran still hate them. But Iran are becoming more and more powerful. They're developing their ballistic missiles. They technically are continuing their nuclear program. And also, the country is becoming more powerful, so the regime is becoming even stronger. And America, of course, disagrees with that because it's a dangerous regime to the world. And then with the UN, Iran don't hate the UN as much. But, again, they're still, you know, they're still developing hostile weapons. The regime's becoming stronger and stronger, which is causing a lot of harm. Their nuclear weapons are still becoming more powerful, and they're making lots and lots of money through oil, so countries are being forced to trade with them. They're able to give the unfair advantage to specific countries that are willing to be friends with them because they have oil, obviously, and it's hard for them to trade because not many people actually support Iran. But countries are supporting Iran due to their cheap oil that they're exporting, which means they're kind of developing friendships with countries just because of their resources, which could lead to, if there is a war in the future, which I don't doubt that much, not gonna lie. I mean, it won't really affect us, but, you know, it's still like a war that could happen. Iran are going to have more allies almost, and that could relate to even more destruction on America's side. In summary, I don't agree with this deal. I don't think we should hate Iran. I don't think that's what we should do. We should be trying to talk to them. We should try to relax their regime. We should try to allow them to have power, but make sure that the power is being controlled very well, i.e. by making sure that they're not against us with the firearms that they're creating. It's not good, though, over there in the Middle East. Jesus Christ. And it's been like this for years, so, you know, nothing's really changing. But I commend Donald Trump for finally speaking out on this flipping Iran nuclear deal, because I didn't know anything about it until he started talking about it. So it's very great that he's actually opposed it and is trying to get America out of this mess, because they're not getting anything out of it. Iran are just becoming more and more dangerous and more of a threat. So I support Donald Trump on that. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this political video. I don't know how it went. I know it may seem like I'm a little bit rusty with what I'm talking about. I know what I'm on about. It's just that it's hard to, you know, present it in not such of a hostile way, because I don't want to be coming across as someone who's very against, you know, Iran, because I don't really want to, you know, be put on a hit list, you know, to be killed by our good friends at Iran. That would not be great. But let's face it, I'm going to try and stay away from the Middle East in general anyway. Thank you guys for watching this video. Leave me a like. Some of you new, that would help me out a lot. Hope you guys have a good day, and I'll be seeing you guys later. Bye.